Dan Podland, Dan Divjak, Chad Stryker. As promised, we're back. We had a little hiatus there. I'll apologize. You can probably still hear it in my voice. I literally have been sick for over 2 weeks, and during a week of that, I didn't have a voice. So for about 5 days, and I think my wife was actually happy when I could talk again because I could finally get after the kids. But Dan, we're back. How are you, man? What's going on? What's new? Thanks for dealing with my illnesses.
Oh man, it's all good. You know my schedule right now, so I'm just glad I have a chance to jump on here with you before the playoffs start and revisit that debacle from a couple weeks ago, ever so briefly, and then move on. But yeah, man, it's good. I'm just incredibly conflicted right now with how to feel about what's going on. So.
Yeah, well, we can start with that. So you know me, man. I try to be really rational. People come to us for rational takes, or at least they try to. And after the loss to the team up north, I was feeling incredibly irrational because I just, for the life of me, we went tempo towards the end of the first half and went right down the field using our weapons. And I know in my mind something was off. Something was off with Will. Something, maybe they didn't trust the offensive line. I don't know what it was, but we did exactly what Michigan wanted us to do, and that I want to spend so much time on the offensive line, man. But I started there because I feel like the offensive line stuff starts and ends there. Like we had, like, that's the kind of been the precipice for what we want to talk about today. But I don't know about you, but I don't understand why we didn't go tempo, why we didn't use our weapons. But that, that's water under the bridge or over the dam or whatever.
Yeah, well, I got a bucket, so
yeah,
you're gonna
bail me out.
I'm gonna collect some of that water and talk about it for a second because we haven't had a show since then. But listen, it starts the main issue that we have is that Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. Ryan Day's sphincter tightens up when it comes to Michigan. He is Jim Harbaugh versus Urban Meyer. He's in his own head, and he has zero confidence going into that game. You can see it in his face. You can see it in his actions. And he completely and utterly and entirely mismanaged that game. It was on Ryan Day. There's no other excuses about it. It was not the offensive line's fault. It was not Chip Kelly's fault. It was not Jim Knowles' fault. Defense showed out, by the way. It was not the player's fault. It was Ryan Day's fault. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Ryan Day has a Michigan problem.
Yeah.
Period. And I don't know if he can ever get over it.
I don't either. I will say, and this was just kind of how this felt to me coming out of halftime. I felt like if Ohio State could find a way to get a touchdown, they would win. And I don't know if Ryan Day felt that way because the way the defense was playing, honestly, Michigan's scores were on very, very short fields. They weren't doing anything. They weren't moving the ball. And I don't know if, and I'm not making excuses. I'm not a Ryan Day apologist. I'm just, and you know this about me. I kept watching that game thinking, man, if they could just get one big play, and I'm wondering if that was Ryan Day's theory all along. Like, one of our playmakers makes a play, we get a touchdown, we go up 17-10. That baby's over at that point. They're not going to score again. I mean, maybe a field goal, but again, if Jaden Fielding doesn't miss a 23-yard field goal and then another really makeable field goal, none of this matters. So, very frustrating, annoyed, don't understand it. But yeah, it lays at the feet of Ryan Day, and he does have a Michigan problem.
And Ryan Day forgets why he got the keys to this Ferrari. He got the keys to this Ferrari because he ran a up-tempo, wide-open offense. Not because he was, quote-unquote, tough, all right?
Right.
But he's got it. Harbaugh, I mean, dude.
He's in his head.
He's in his head, man. Like, that comment it's impossible to get out of his head. And this whole nonsense that we have to be the tougher team, and the only way you're the tougher team is to win the rushing battle and run it down their throat and line up and do 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He's a freaking moron.
Mm-hmm.
He's an idiot for thinking that way. And the fact that he didn't back off of it publicly or privately, by the way, with the players, he didn't back off of it. He didn't assume any responsibility. He put it on the players, if anything. And he is just not equipped for that game.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, this team's not built that way, and that's the thing I keep coming back to. And even I don't think the thing with Klatt and Gus Johnson bringing up the stats about the team winning the rushing battle the last whatever amount of games has won the game. Sure, that's great. That's predicated on the past. But I think you can take this back to 2021, the snow game in Ann Arbor, and where Day lost, and they, Jim Harbaugh basically said, they weren't tough. They weren't tough in the trenches, and CJ had a rough game. It was not a great, there was a lot of snow, a lot of crap going on. CJ had the flu, all week, didn't have a voice. And I think that got in his head ever since then that like, oh, well, I can only beat them this one way. Well, that's how Michigan wants to beat you, because they know that that's not your modus operandi. That's not what you do well. The reason we beat Michigan State that week prior and just rolled them is because we could throw the ball down the field and nobody could stop them. Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. And we are that now. Like, I feel like Will Howard, there were so many crossing routes that, like, if he just pulls the trigger, I know, Dan, this. If a wide receiver is even with a DB, that wide receiver's leaving. If he's even, he's leaving. If he throws that ball with our wide receivers, he's gone. They're gone. Well,
I mean, let's talk about Will for a second. All right. I mean, Will Howard was concussed.
Okay.
This is not an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no excuse for that game, to be clear. Not making excuses. Will Howard fought to get his helmet back. I know somebody that was 10 feet from the area where he was talking to the doctors, and he was going into the tent, and Will Howard, the doctors took his helmet away from him. And Will Howard, to no fault of his own, this is what competitors do, talked them into giving his helmet back. He did that little run up and down the sidelines, throwing his hands in the air to get the crowd back into the game, and they gave him his helmet back. And he was not well the rest of the game, man. Like, he had a concussion. He should not have gone back into the game. Period. End of story. Ryan knew it, and that's why that was so conservative in the second half. So another mismanagement of the game by Ryan Day. Yeah. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little shocked that a bigger deal has not been made out of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if down the road it doesn't come back up. Because it was medical negligence to allow him back into the game.
Yeah, it very well could. So sticking with Will Howard and the Michigan loss, we'll just call it what it is. Now, for me personally, I kind of liked his statement that we can't let Michigan beat us twice. Like, basically, let's grieve the loss. We've had a couple weeks now, but we got to move ahead, and we're on to Tennessee. We are in the college football playoff. We are hosting a home game, first time ever for a home game in the Horseshoe for a playoff game. And I personally, now, I like Will Howard's attitude too, but I thought that to me made a lot of sense. Like, you can't, and anybody who's ever, I'm going to tread real lightly, but if you've ever had a loss, like a personal loss, financial loss, whatever, you can't live in that loss forever. Like, you just can't. Like, you, at some point, you have to, like, take your next steps forward. And I kind of took that way from what Will Howard was saying. Yes, this sucks. Yes, we wanted to win that game. We didn't play our best game, but we gotta regroup, man. We gotta play again. That's football too. Like, you've got to turn the page. You got to win. Get ready to play the next game. So, I didn't like our seeding. I thought our seeding sucked, but we'll talk about that another time. But What did you think of that statement from Will Howard? I mean, you have to agree, right?
I agree with it. I'm not sure I like the fact that it was said. And let me explain. It tells me it's still in their head.
Mm.
And when I say their head, I mean Ryan's head.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded to me like something that came from Ryan, which means he's keeping it alive.
Mm.
And, we can talk about, Ryan ad nauseum. Like, I don't like his demeanor, man. I don't like his energy. I don't like his look. I don't like his mannerisms. I don't like what he's saying leading up to this game. It sounds very indecisive. It sounds very forced. It sounds very canned. It sounds very defeated to me. I was excited coming out of last week. Then after he made his rounds with pressers and stuff at the end of last week and the beginning of this week, I am no longer confident. I am no longer excited. I think that he is mentally defeated. I don't see it's not the same mannerisms after the 22 Michigan loss when he came out and let it fly versus Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have a little bit to do with how he feels about Will and not, being able to throw the ball downfield like CJ could. But I just think that the guy's been beaten to a pulp in the public and he's not thick-skinned enough and mentally tough enough to overcome it. Like, when's the last time you heard Ryan Day have any sort of a public statement or interview or anything else like that where he had the same energy and conviction as a Kirby Smart or a Dan Lanning?
Training camp this year?
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's just been so, I don't know. There's just been an arrogance about him this year. And I'm not saying that Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning don't come off as arrogant, because they do, but they come out way more confident than they do arrogant. Like, Ryan's had this unsure arrogance about him. And once things got tough, he did what he does. And he turtled against Michigan. He took over play calling in the second half. I have that on very good authority. I trust that it's true.
Yep.
The conservative game plan in the second half specifically was 100% Ryan Day and not Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly more or less said that in the press conference yesterday. I think he threw Ryan under the bus in a very indirect, sly, coy kind of way when he said something to the effect of, you can't, that you can't be so stubborn, to spite yourself, right? He more or less said that yesterday. And it's just, there's problems, man, that have just taken the fun out of it for me this year. There's problems that have me really, not confident going into this weekend. And it should be the exact opposite. Like, there's no reason this team should be able to come in from Tennessee and even, maybe keep it close for a minute. But like, there's no reason that this should not be an Indiana-esque result.
Mm-hmm.
Our defense should smother them the way we did Indiana, and we should do just enough to have a comfortable, 15 to 20 point margin of victory against this team.
All right. Well, let's talk Tennessee then, man, since we're here. So the Ryan Day thing, if you remember, if you go back to when you went to the early practices, the open training practice period, and you and I were talking, and Ryan Day came up and like, he was funny and he was loose and he was having a good time. That's the last time I really remember him, being that way. When you talk about the arrogance, and I don't think we're going to alienate anybody here, but like, it's that upper northeast of the U.S. posture. There, like when you talk to people from New York or New Jersey, and there's a lot of times there can just be an arrogance about them, the way they are, the way they carry themselves. Maybe people from Delaware who, were in places. I don't know. But we'll
well, I mean, what's Justin Fry's excuse? He's from Indiana and he's the most arrogant piece of crap on the staff.
Yeah, so that's what okay, gosh, we'll talk about Justin Fry, fine. Then we'll talk about Tennessee. So I spoke to one of my sources, and this. And basically I was just curious about Justin Fry. Like, what I think there's been this ebb and flow with him this year. Like early in the season, we're like, oh, he's okay. Josh Simmons has played okay. And then we brought Seth McLaughlin in, and Austin Sarabeld starts getting reps, and he's looking pretty decent. Josh Fryer's not having an awful year. And we thought early, and I'm not putting everything on Josh Fry with Justin Fry with Tegra Shabola. I think Tegra first year starting, probably getting tired. We saw it with Hinsman last year too, where he just started having some bad reps later in the year. That first full year starting, that grind a lot of times for young kids, like it's just a lot. But now we're back to, we've lost Simmons, we've lost McLaughlin. Hinsman didn't play very well at center. Tegra Shabola played the worst game of any offensive lineman I've seen in a long time against Michigan. Donnie did well enough. Josh did well enough. Hinsman did not play great at center. Austin was mediocre at best at left guard. And so everybody's saying, well, where's the development? And now we're also not getting anybody to commit from the transfer portal. We lose Will Conroy for now. And I'll let you talk about that because you know what I know about what Fry did to Conroy.
Listen, let's back up for a second.
Parse it apart, man. There's so much. I'm so mad at Justin Fry.
Yeah. Crack up another soda. I got some things to say.
Yeah. All right.
So you started out by referring to sources. I want to make something very clear to people that potentially listen to this. I don't know if you want to cut up a clip or, we can put some stuff out there. I don't care what people think of us. Like I started this a little less than a year ago with you for shits and giggles to have fun. And what happens in this podcast world is it gets really small really quick. Yep. Like we're not insiders. We're not members of the media. We don't want to be. We don't pretend to be. We don't suggest that we are. We have no desire to be. Because number one, I couldn't follow Jerry Edmonds' rules anyways. But yeah, like when you get in this little bubble, okay, people start searching you out. People start coming to you. Players, coaches, parents, trainers, family members, they proactively reach out to us whether we want them to or not, and whether we try to reach out to them or not. Okay. So the information that we get, it's not because we're sitting there digging for it. It literally comes to us. Okay. And for those of you on Twitter that want to question every time somebody shares information that's in this little podcast bubble world, kiss my ass, because I'm sick and tired of these folks that don't do anything at all to find out anything on their own, questioning us. Like, I'm not here making stuff up, right? Like, Justin Fry is a complete piece of crap when it comes to a recruiter. We'll talk about development separately. Mm-hmm. When it comes to recruiting, I think the single biggest mistake going into this year that Ryan Day made was keeping him on as a lame duck coach with 1 year left on his deal.
Yep.
I think Justin Fry is arrogant. I don't think he likes recruiting. I don't think he likes the game that has to be played with it. He doesn't have an ounce of salesman in him. He doesn't enjoy it. And that's his prerogative. But man, he's getting paid to freaking fake it and enjoy it.
And $800K, right? He makes $800K a year because he got it went down.
No, it didn't go down. That was a typo. When 11 Warriors or 11 Monroe came out with salaries and changes year over year, there was a typo in there. It didn't go down, but it didn't go up. It stayed flat, and he didn't get an extension. He's the only one that did not get a raise going into this year, and he was the only one playing on a 1 year deal.
Was Alfred? He didn't get a raise either, right? And then he bowled.
He was gone. He was gone by then.
He was gone by then.
Yeah. But the reality is that we have players and parents who have reached out to us and told us what Justin Fry is like when it comes to recruiting. He is disinterested.
Yeah.
He is unmotivating. He is distant. He is non-communicative. He is lazy.
Yeah.
And it's just because he doesn't enjoy it. And I think you couple that with the fact that he's on a lame duck contract, and it was a perfect storm for a complete and utter disaster. And that's what's happened with recruiting. This guy told us with his arrogant, smug smile a few weeks before Jade McFadden, or a few days before McFadden committed.
Yeah, Javon McFadden.
Hey, yeah, just wait for Saturday, and December's a long ways away. Well, you know what? McFadden was the last guy to commit in that class of 3. All right, and now we're going into the transfer portal, and this guy is telling 6'8" offensive tackles that they should play guard. I mean, this guy is a complete and utter loser. He is a waste of life at this point, and he has no business being around the program anymore. And I'm sorry for being that blunt and that brutal about it, because it's not the angle I prefer or like to take, but it's reality, folks. That information is coming from players and parents and outside coaches and outside trainers. That this guy is a total waste of air.
So there's things I'm going to reiterate some things that blanketly that we've heard. Dan's right. We don't seek people out. Maybe one day in 5 years when these guys are gone, I'll grab some screenshots of our Twitter DMs from people and just put them out there. But firstly, Justin Frye has a bad habit of ghosting kids. And we know that for a fact. The second thing is he's kind of derogatory towards kids. And I know coaches can be that way. Like, it's one thing to motivate a kid, but there's just some stories we've heard about him just, being like, you're not good enough, go do something else, more or less, with kids at camps and stuff. And then the other thing that I've heard most recently, and I can't tell you where I've heard it, but I have it on pretty good authority, that kids have a hard time relating to him. Like, he's not relatable. So all of that does not make for a good recruiter, in my opinion. I really try to be positive. I really try to be rational, but I'm having a hard time rationalizing Justin Frye. And then I'm having a hard time keeping why Day kept him on the staff. And then
we all know why Jay kept him on his staff. He was in his freaking wedding.
Yeah. And then when it comes to Isaiah World, the tackle, what I understood about the conversation was that he asked if he would be willing to play guard, not if he could, or like if there would. But why even bring that up? I don't understand that. I know they did with Paris Johnson, but Paris Johnson was a true freshman. And you wanted to put your best 5 on the field. So either in Justin Frye's mind, Devontae Armstrong or Carter Lowe, I guess they believe that they could be the starting left tackle next year. And I don't know. I don't understand the precipice of that conversation or why it would even come up. Like, why would you even bring that up? It makes no sense.
Can you imagine a 6'8" guard with Julian Sane behind center?
No.
I mean, it's just the notion of it is ludicrous, right? It harkens the memory of Larry Johnson blowing up the Justin Hill recruitment at the last second by saying, you could be Chase Young, when like that kid point blank said, don't ever mention Chase Young to me. That's not who I am. Right. It's like this kid's an all conference tackle, #1 offensive tackle in the portal. He's 6'8", 325 pounds. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. All 3 of our people that played tackle this year for any decent amount of time and with any semblance of success are gone after this playoff run. And you're talking to this guy with 1 year of eligibility left about tackling, or about guard. Like, don't even bring it up, man. It's like in sales, right? It's like, I tell my people all the time, like, once somebody's ready to buy and they say they're ready to buy, just shut the hell up and don't sell the no. Like, this guy, I swear to God, I could go in there and do a closing seminar and teach these guys how to do discovery and overcome objections and close on people, and they would instantly see an improvement in the way that they recruit, because I don't get it. If that's not being provided to them, it needs to, because these guys, a lot of them don't know how to sell. and they certainly don't know how to close.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, semi-related to Justin Fry, but on the sales front in regarding money, there's been some whispers, and they're becoming more than whispers, Dan, that some of the funding that we saw in the big push that we saw last spring before the spring portal is starting to dry up. And I know the economy's not great. I get it. Like people, when I would run polls, are like, if I could afford it, I would donate, Are you hearing that?
I think that's a natural rumor that's going to get started once you start missing out on the portal. I'm fairly confident that we've got the money there if we want it.
Yeah, I know they had money put back. I know they had money put back.
I feel very good that, we haven't been afraid to spend money in the trenches, especially the offensive line right now.
Yeah.
And, listen, I've got it on pretty good authority that there's somebody on standby waiting to buy out Ryan's contract and the coaching staff and pay for the next coach. All right. I mean, I've got that on. I feel pretty good about that information. So I don't think money is a problem at Ohio State. I mean, it's out there, and there's people that people don't even know about that are like literally want to remain under the radar, low key. Some of them aren't even alumni. Yeah. They're just Ohio State super fans that have ridiculous amounts of money, some of which we don't know where it came from in some cases, and people don't care to ask. But the money's out there. I mean, do I think there's some fatigue? Yeah. Do I think that there's a little bit of show me? Yeah. Do I think that it would prevent us from getting especially offensive linemen going into next year and coming into the portal right now? No. I mean, the money's there if we need it for stuff like that.
All right. So one of the things that I've learned, and this is true, I have it on, it's out there, is that Ohio State does their own NIL valuation on a player. And I'm going to use, I'll just use you, Dan. Dan is a linebacker.
Better pay me. Better pay me.
Yeah.
Better pay me, Chad.
Yeah. All right. And they value Dan at $1.5 million a year. And what Ohio State then says is we value you at $1.5 million a year. You're coming to one of the top 4 universities for football. You're going to be able to go play in the NFL. You're going to have all these royalties from sponsorships and things you can do in Columbus. You'll probably sign with a car dealership. You're going to drive a car for free. You're going to be able to do all these things. But, we're going to pay you $1.5 million. That's where we see your evaluation and your worth. And you'll get that this year. And if you play well and you have another year and you're coming back, we can discuss $2 million or whatever. Now, what's happening is Ohio State doesn't negotiate with these kids. They say, this is what we believe you're at. We're not going to come off of that number. And so Ole Miss is going to come in and say, well, we'll give you 3. And, but it's Ole Miss. So, enjoy not being in the playoffs. And so that's one of the things that, look, I'm not advocating for a bidding war, but Oregon will. They're just writing checks, man. And so I like Ohio State's strategy for the most part, but some of this stuff, you can stand on principle as long as you want, but some of this at some point you're going to have to cut a big fat check. David Sanders is one of those examples. Like, look what they did with Bryce Underwood, the $13 million or whatever. There would not have been an amount of money that I would not have offered David Sanders in this class because he's one of one.
Well, here, you want a news flash?
Go for it.
Based on what I know, our offer for David Sanders was $500K higher than Tennessee's.
But $500K is nothing. I'm talking I would have put 15 on the table.
But we didn't lose that because of money, is my point. We did not lose David Sanders because of money. And the fact that we were $500,000 more and that wasn't enough to get him over a place like Tennessee tells me that there's something wrong inside. Here we are, back to the offensive line, coincidentally. But it's, I mean, basically what I'm hearing you say is that Ohio State's trying to be responsible with this, and then there's also the assumption that everybody else is just writing a blank check, and I don't know if that's necessarily true, man.
Not everyone, but I'm saying specific players.
I mean, I think right now we're losing people to Oregon because Dan Lanning is a better salesman than Ryan Day.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Are they
giving right now?
Are they giving these guys deals? Of course they are. Is Nike sexy? Yes. The offered thing that came out about
his shoe,
Phil Knight giving him a shoe, like I don't even believe that. Like, I mean, I believe they may have said it to him, but I don't believe that's going to happen. Phil Knight he's given a shoe contract to 2 defensive backs in the history of the NFL. You're gonna I mean, they're better salesmen, and then what happens is they get in there and they have a better culture for what kids want today.
Okay,
and they're winning.
So let me ask you this: we'll stay on the Justin Fry thing, and then I can run through some of the transfer portal targets we have. Who are you hiring? And do not say LaCharles Bentley, because Ryan Day will not hire LaCharles Bentley.
Yeah, I would hire LaCharles Bentley, but I'm not Ryan Day.
Well, that's the problem. So I'm saying we all love LaCharles Bentley. Those of us, especially up in the Akron area, and I know you know of him and know him well, and I know Juck does, and I know within the Catholic School League, he's very well thought of. He's offered to help.
Yeah.
Well, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, depending on who you talk to.
Depending on who you talk to. Okay, but I think a lot of,
even though he's in the Catholic, league, he's not a saint.
No, but so what I don't think Ryan Day would hire LaCharles Bentley. So who, I've
got an answer for you.
Okay, go ahead.
I would go out and hire the Carlos Locklin of offensive line coaches. I would go out and hire a guy that's willing to work his ass off when it comes to recruiting and that kids can relate to, and that also coach his position up.
Okay.
Carlos Locklin was not a big name running back coach when he brought him in.
No,
I know there's this, and this is the Ohio State arrogance, right? We're arrogant people. We are an arrogant fan base. We think that we should be able to go out and not only should we be able to, but we should just go out and get the biggest name out there. And it's not necessary. Carlos Locklin was coaching at Memphis a few years ago for a pair of shorts and a t-shirt.
Right.
That was his compensation. The guy's the best thing that happened to that running back room.
Yeah, he's a tough dude too.
And kids can relate to him. He is the antithesis to Justin Fry.
Yeah.
So we don't need to go and get this big name. We need to go and get the right name. We need to go and get the right person.
Okay. I had made a note. Somebody that I've kind of sort of paid attention to, and this is going to be an off the beaten path guy. His name is Matt Stansfield. He's the offensive line coach for Buffalo out of the MAC. And I think that, you're talking about the Locklin kind of guy. Now, obviously, Buffalo to Columbus is a big hop. Locklin at least had time at Oregon. But that was one of those names that I was looking through my notes. And then the other guy was, I can't ever say his last name, but it's Matios. But he's the offensive line coach for Arkansas. And those Arkansas guys are maulers, man. The way they run the football. So
yeah, it's just it's somebody that has a persona and a charisma about them that can relate to kids and that's willing to work, willing to play the game that's required in today's recruiting age. I'm not saying it's enjoyable. I'm saying it's required.
Yeah,
and that's who we need. We don't need to go and get LaCharles Bentley or Kurt Barton or, Billy Price or, Nick Mangold because they're Ohio guys. We need to go and get a guy like Carlos Locklin. We need to get the offensive line version of Carlos Locklin.
I think Ohio guys help though.
Carlos Locklin had no ties to Ohio State, and he's kicking ass in that running back room.
All right.
And on the recruiting trail.
Do you want to save any Tennessee predictions for Friday?
I don't know if I can do Friday, so let's do it now.
Okay. So I guess what do you expect against Tennessee on Friday, and then we can end with the transfer portal stuff.
Well, my go-to is, whenever anybody's asking for a
Saturday,
prediction, my go-to this year when people have asked for a prediction is my Clubber Lang, Payne. But I don't know, man. Like I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to see the 2020 Clemson and 2022 UGA Ryan Day, even though he's not calling plays, which who knows, he might by halftime like he did against Michigan.
Right.
I'm just, I don't know, man. Like I just don't, I don't know. This team should not beat us. I'll tell you that much. This team should not beat us.
Right.
Last week I was expecting an Indiana-esque game, maybe kind of close in the first half, couple, whatever. And then I think the defense could, like, Nico does not respond well at all to pressure at all. So we've got to dial up the pressure defensively.
I think they will.
And we've got to, and this is going to sound crazy, but we probably need to think about the straight ahead run game plan of Michigan, which is the exact opposite of what we should have done against Michigan.
Against Michigan,
against Michigan, we should have worked the outside. We should have attacked the outside. We should have spread, in the run game, we should have spread them out. We should have hit the perimeter, right? We should have done we ran speed option once in that game and it went for 17 yards. That same play that like came out of nowhere against Penn State and just they could never adjust to. One time 17 yards with Q around the right end. We ran that. I think we have to attack straight ahead against Tennessee in the run game. And then in the pass game, dude, we need to let it go, man. We need to let it rip. We need to spread it out. If JJ doesn't have 15 targets in this game, then somebody should get fired.
15 touches.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of touches, Tarbett. I think you're probably thinking screens and arounds and bubbles and stuff.
Pop passes.
Yeah, but we need to spread them out on offense. And I would love to see some tempo for whatever reason. Like, oh, you're just going to make me get pissed off again. Like, this nonsense that Ryan said in the press conference the other day about he wants Will to be able to look the guys in the eyes and make sure they know the down and distance. And I'll just line up and go. Yep. Line up and go.
Let's go 7-on-7 style.
Let our aliens eat.
Yeah, let our playmakers
that we have on offense. Let them go out there and make plays. Get the ball in their hands more times than we ever have this season. That's what needs to happen. I do think the running back, is obviously. I had fun on Twitter the other day. I said the only reason Dylan Sampson is the best running back in the SEC is because Quinshon Judkins transferred to OSU.
Well, you're not wrong.
It might be my highest bookmarked tweet of the year. I can tell you who's been bookmarking it.
Tennessee folks, man.
Yeah. So I'm kind of seeing a God, I almost said 27. That would mean 2 field goals. I'll go with 27 and a missed extra point. How about that? 27-13, 27, 27-20. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Tennessee is good. I don't think they're, the creme de la creme in the SEC. I think they could hurt us. I think they can challenge us in a way that Oregon did.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge us defensively when we're on defense. But that's why we've got to dial up. Like, we can't have that same game plan that we had against Oregon, or else the game's going to be like that. It's going to be really close.
Cool. I think
and let me finish my thought on that. If we win this game, I can see us going on a run.
Okay. I think this game is going to be really close, like incredibly close. I think Ohio State may pull away late with a touchdown. So I'm going 31-21. I don't know. I don't. So I have like at the start of the year, you gave me all kinds of crap about the amount of points our defense was going to give up. And after the Oregon game, they did better, but we gave up points to Marshall. I think that I just feel like this is going to be one of those games where I have concerns about Denzel Burke on an island and just the way that Nico can just kind of throw the ball up and it ends up in places you don't expect it to be, and weird stuff happens when that happens. But I think Ohio State will win. I think we will win. And I think it'll be a closer game than we would like, and it'd be uncomfortable, but I think they win. I wanted to also give a shout out to my buddy Brandon. So he got me a game used football from the Western Kentucky game. So thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, if this is a close game and we win, then I hope it's a close game with us in the lead. Because if it's a close game like Michigan was, I have zero confidence in Ryan Day.
I agree with you.
Unless it's a shootout.
I would like that better. At least that means we're throwing the ball around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I wanted to be confident going into this game. I can't sit here and tell you that I am. I mean, everything is there for us to be.
Yeah.
We got a night game in the shoe. They're able to do things during this game that they're not able to during a regular season game in regards
not according to the one guy on Twitter, man. They haven't been working on it or doing anything, man. He told you in the Twitter sphere that the lights don't work and that they can't turn them off and on. And
there's literally a video that came out yesterday of them turning the lights on.
I know. I was just having some fun, brother. But he was pretty adamant that they wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't look as, efficient and, laser sharp as some of these other stadiums that you see, but they're going to listen, man. They're going to be able to do some things. And then the other thing they're going to be able to do is like, they're not going to have all those local commercials on the video board during timeouts and stuff like that. So it's going to allow them to do more crowd interaction stuff during that time frame. The one thing I don't like that the college football playoff is making you do is play a hype video for the visitors. Like this home field is supposed to mean something.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play your hype video, do better in the season.
Win more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did get a note from Ohio State, so like from the ticket office, that I was going to read for everybody if you're going to the game. So they sent it out to season ticket holders. It was called Know Before You Go. And if you've never gone or you're just, still kind of green, number one, it was Wear Scarlet, but make sure you download the Ohio State Buckeyes app. Download your tickets before you get there, because the internet, man, if you try to open it up when you're there and you're like coming right up on game time to get in, it's going to be tough. I've had it happen. And parking passes, because a lot of the parking places now, it's all mobile. Everything's mobile, so make sure you do that. I'm just trying to give out tips because everybody asks me for tips. Like I had Cooper Bucks, one of our primetime followers. He got to go to, I think, his first Michigan game or something. And he sent me a list of questions. He's like, where do I park? What do I do? Where do I go? So I'm just trying to help people as much as I can. But everybody always asks me where I like to park. I always like to park in Lane Avenue garage because I like to do the walk. And usually if you get there early enough, Lane Avenue, depending on, the time and whatever, but you do have to pay. It's not free. But that's where I park, is Lane Avenue garage, for those of you that were asking that question. So Dan, I want to ask you a little bit about the transfer portal. Then we'll spend like 2 or 3 minutes on this, because I think everybody knows where we are just because of the Twitter sphere. But Justice Haynes, he is not coming. I don't even think we're going to get a visit. So you guys might as well just put that one to bed. We don't have any tackles yet. Aaron Nolan is gone. I asked you yesterday how you felt about Amaris Williams. So if you guys remember last year, we were heavy in the Amaris Williams sweepstakes as a recruit. He is entering the transfer portal from Auburn. I don't know. I don't think he played very much this year. LJ got one swing left in him, man, or what do you think?
I don't know, man. I mean, here's my thought process on it. Number one, this is the kid who was going to commit to us. Was he committed? Was he?
It was a silent, I believe, what you and I had talked about.
So he was going to sign with us, and then the Auburn coach got in his ear, convinced him that Larry was retiring.
Right.
He signs with Auburn, and then that coach went and bolted
left
for another job. So, I mean, welcome to the world of recruiting. I don't know. Here's the deal. I don't think we are casting a wide tampering net like that.
Yeah.
So, do I think he went into the portal because he's coming here? No. Do I think that he went into the portal without knowing where he's going? Most likely also no.
So I thought maybe Missouri, since Anuary left Missouri.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've stopped trying to figure out the transfer portal.
Yeah, so Joyner, with the running back from USC, was in for a visit. I'll do a whole thing on him sometime, but I think he looks like he's running through mud. I don't get that one. That one doesn't make much sense to me. Josh Thompson was here, so he's an interior offensive lineman from Northwestern. No commitment. The RPM says we lead for him. I'll believe it when I see it. Philip Daniels, the offensive tackle.
Real quick, there's a quote on the Auburn boards. Take it for what it's worth. That his camp said the visit to Ohio State was not great. And it had to do with a certain position coach.
Not surprised. Philip Daniels just entered his name in the portal yesterday, the tackle out of Minnesota.
That's the one that I've heard we tampered with.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Which is weird because I don't even think he started, did he?
Towards the end of the season, I believe he did. I think he had 3 starts. I have to go. Let me reread that. But Isaiah World, as we've talked about, not coming here. There's not a ton of money pouring in at this time. The Washington State, and I'm not even going to try to say his name because I don't want to butcher it. It's a Hawaiian name or a Polynesian name. Entered the portal yesterday. He's a kid that I like when I was looking at kids and they were saying that of the offensive tackles that could enter the portal, he was one that I had circled because he's one of those guys. He's a Josh Simmons kind of guy. He could come in and he work on his body, get the right type of the kid from Washington State.
Oh, okay.
The Polynesian.
I thought you were going to say Cal Poly. Like we've already
no, the kid from Washington State. So that's the one I wrote. Please, gimme. Yeah. So it's his last name is FA : or semicolon or whatever AMOE. Apostrophe, yeah.
I mean, you stay up on some of these guys way more than I do. I will comment on one of your comments, which is I do not think money is an issue in the portal.
Okay.
Especially on the offensive line. I am 100% confident the money is there. It's a different problem.
Okay.
We may have touched on it already.
Yeah. I try to stay up on as much as that as I can, but he was one and I was like, man, I think that he would be not that I don't like the kid out of Minnesota, but right now, anything, some kind of tackle. I don't care if it's a right tackle or a left tackle. Just give me a tackle.
Yeah. But hey, you want to talk about the quarterback room?
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, Devin's in the portal. I've got it on pretty good authority that Devin was asked to stay for the playoff run.
We know
I have no idea if they took care of him. I'm assuming they did. I don't know if he knows where he's going yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, and it's just being kept quiet. But there's a very good chance that he doesn't know. Air, we've mentioned on there before, and we got criticized for it. I've known for a couple months now that Air Nolan was leaving. Now
I tried to keep it under wraps.
I will tell you that I was under the impression he was going to Auburn. I don't think that's the case anymore. But I mean, that wasn't exactly like a wild stretch to suggest that Air wasn't going to stick around. The guy didn't even get practice reps this year.
Well,
and then Lincoln was about to hop in the portal, and then they paid him to stick around at least through spring. And my understanding is Ryan may or may not have promised they'd only go in the spring with 3 people, which I think is hilariously, blatantly lying to the kid.
Yeah.
But I see why it was done. I mean, you can't go into spring with 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You can't run a practice with 2 quarterbacks. It's hard to run a practice with 3 quarterbacks. Plus, Lincoln runs the scout team.
Yeah.
Like he's played the scout team quarterback all year. Air helped a little bit during the Oregon week, but it was mainly Lincoln. Can you imagine if Lincoln left and Ryan had to ask Julian to run the scout team during the playoff run? That diva mentality? Holy cow.
I got annoyed yesterday or day before because somebody pulled up a tweet I made like 6 weeks ago when an article came out saying that Aaron Nolan might enter the transfer portal. And I was like, literally, Juck had his dad on and he said he's not going anywhere. Someone bookmarked it and it was one of our own fan base and came back after me. And I'm like, bro,
yeah, that might have been me.
Nah, some dude named Brandon.
Well, I remember when you said that too, but I knew at that point that it was not going well.
But I mean, still, I don't know. Okay, well, they're kids, man. They're kids.
Crazy world, man.
Yeah.
Did you see what the Micah Hudson kid from Texas Tech got, or now Texas Tech?
Yeah,
he left Texas Tech,
having no touchdowns in the season. Yeah,
I mean, it's absurd. $700K immediately wired into his account to sign and commit now.
Yeah.
3 cars for his family to sign and commit now. He gets a driver for the season. Like he gets a driver. He has a chauffeur. He has a chauffeur.
He's a driver.
And then it's only he and his family who get to decide if he's medically cleared to go back on the field if he gets hurt. So.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the world we live in now, man.
Yeah. Well, I ended up blocking that guy because I'm so over our fan base just being so petty about stupid shit anymore. Like, I was just trying to say that the kid's dad said that they weren't going anywhere, and so
yeah. Well, I'm all of a sudden a negative Nancy according to a bunch of our fan base. They can kiss my ass. I don't care.
Well, it's been hard, man. It's been hard to stay, and again, I'm genuine, I'm rational. I try to be positive. I love Ohio State. You guys know this. But I don't even know. I took like 3 days and didn't even open the Twitter app. I just like maybe for a brief second, but I just can't, like, the vitriol that's out there.
So I'm active early in the morning and late at night, and I think it's hilarious. It's funny. Like, there will be people that will respond to my last quote, like, literally 8 or 9 times throughout the course of the day, expecting me to respond. It's like, hey, buddy, I got a real life. Like, I'm working. You go and be Billy Idol and keep dancing with yourself and have fun on Twitter all day.
I don't, but look, I understand having a platformed event, and you and I get to do this and we have fun and we're talking heads and whatnot. But I just don't get trashing the kids. I'm all for, like, if you want to blow up Ryan Day and you want to blow up Justin Fry or Larry Johnson or whoever the hell else that's an adult. Yeah. I'm a man. I'm 40, but I stand behind Mike Gundy for that, man. Like, leave the kids alone, man.
Here's the deal, man. There are also some quotes this week about, you really need to stop because kids see this and parents see this. Like, kids, listen, man, kids don't need Twitter to know what's going on at a program.
No.
I mean, to what I alluded to earlier, most of the stuff that goes on Twitter, at least coming from me, it's coming from the freaking players that are being recruited or their parents or their coaches or their trainers.
Yeah.
Like, it's not,
I'm not joking. These guys
are getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to coach at these universities. And if they're not willing to do their job and they're too arrogant and they're too lazy to do their job, they're going to get lit up.
Yeah. I mean, I asked a question one time directly about a kid to someone I know, and they literally wrote back, LLL, who knows, because they just didn't want to talk about it. And the screenshots that we could show you guys, the stuff that people send us, Yeah, leave the kids alone. Just leave them alone. Let them go play football. Let them have an education. I try not, and I've tried, Dan, really hard, like to toe that line. Like, if a kid wants to go somewhere else and he's picking his college, and I used to be really this way when before NIL, like if you want to go somewhere, and we've shared the story about my dad taking me to Syracuse in the middle of winter because that's where I wanted to go, and then I got out of the car and I was like, nope, too cold for me, but that was at the time I really liked the school because I had done it like an unofficial visit in the summer, and I was like, oh, this is nice. However, the landscape has changed, but I really try to just believe that like these kids are picking a school, they're going to go play football for that school. And they're 17 and 18-year-old kids. Like I did, thankfully the most of the filming and internet was not around before when you and I were that age for all the stupid stuff we did. So let them pick a school. And in the era of the transfer portal, it's probably not going to matter next year anyways.
Yeah. Listen, here's my biggest gripe with, and this isn't even with the kids, right? Because to me, if a kid wants to go and play somewhere and he's not playing where he's at currently, and they've been there a couple years, like, I mean, listen, man, am I sad to see Devin Brown go? Yes. Do I think that he could have done something special if he got his shot? Yes. Do I think there were some personal things there between him and Ryan Day that prevented that? Yes. Do I think there were aspects of Devin's game that prevented it? Yes. But I mean, the kid's been here 3 years. I got no problem with him transferring, and it doesn't minimize or negate any of his comments in the past or anything else like that. For a guy like Aaron Nolan, man, he's 5th on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I mean, and he barely got practice reps this year.
Yeah. And you got Tavian St. Clair coming in early in January.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've got no ill will with him. Here's who I do have ill will with when it comes to the transfer portal. Who I have ill will towards are the people that reach out to a player without being asked to and give them the idea that they can go and get them money somewhere else. And this guy hasn't even been playing.
The third uncle.
Like you got one of the stories I heard recently was like there's a low tier SEC kid who didn't even see the field, and some street agent convinced him he can get him $300,000. So he entered the portal, and he has no home.
No home.
Something's got to change with the way this is working. Like this is not what was intended.
I feel like I have to go look up this number again, but I'm pretty sure Mark Porter, who's someone I really, really respect when it comes to like evaluations and kids, especially in Ohio, he does scouting in Ohio, mentioned that last year there were like 700 kids left in the portal. Like these kids at smaller schools just threw their name in the portal and without having conversations, without, and then ended up, and there were schools saying, hey, if you enter the portal, we're not having you come back. And then I can't remember what school it was. It might have been like, he mentioned a specific school. I can't remember who it was, but basically the coach had to change his mentality because none of the players that entered the portal got picked up. And then they wanted to come back, and he said he wasn't going to allow any of them back. And he changed that this year to say, we can have a conversation about you returning to the team. That he wasn't going to take such a hardline stance. It was a smaller school, though. I want to say it was like Indiana Wesleyan or something like that. But regardless, there were 700 and some kids last year at the end of the portal session that like no longer had a team because your 85th player was entered the transfer portal and nobody picked you up.
Yeah. Well, it's the world we live in now, man.
It is. I just
ready to wrap this up.
Yep. Sorry, brother. All right, man. Well, you guys, this was just a venting session, I feel like, for me and Dan. So I'm not, maybe you enjoyed it, maybe you don't. Drop us a like, drop us a comment, subscribe. I'm not even sure I enjoyed this today, but that's the world we live in right now. Well, we had to get it off our chest. Let's just this was getting it off our chest.
It was therapy.
Yeah, therapy. yeah, so subscribe. I'm back. I'm feeling better. I should be back in a normal routine now. Dan may not be here Friday, but either I will be or I'll have a guest on to help us out. I know Terry T's been itching to get back and have a conversation, so I'll probably reach out to him. But thank you guys as always. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. Get ready for the weekend. Hopefully we'll get some nice cold, chilly weather for those Tennesseans. And we'll see you guys on Friday. And as always, stay safe.
Go Bucks.
Gosh, man, we got going and I lost total track of time. I'm sorry.
All right. It says this is uploaded. Am I good?
Yep. All right, man. I'll see you.
Catch up with you later.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye.